producers, it's Ozgun here. So today's tutorial is going to be the walkthrough of my latest release Zenith. So I made the track with Chris A. It was a collaboration with him. It released on Will Sparks label Clubwork. And today I'm gonna show you how we made this Bigroom Techno track. And if you're ready, let's get into that tutorial. So this is a track we have. It was a collaboration. I have tons of stamps, but still I have a lot of things to show you. Maybe we can start with kick and bass as we always do. And also if you didn't listen to the track, I'm gonna put a link in the description so you can check it out before watching this walkthrough. So this is my kick drum. It's pretty big, pretty fat bass drum, and it contains 3 different layers, and I already have the layers for you. So the main layer was the kick that Chris sent me. So there's nothing crazy going on, it's just an EQ and some shaper box. I'm not sure what it does, but I thought the kick wasn't in full potential, and that's why I put 2 different layers top of the kick. One of the layers was this. So this is a punch kick. Probably I find it on Splice, and without processing it sounds like that. With the processing. So we are boosting the kick with Thickify and also cutting the low frequencies because we only need the punch part of it. We don't need it to get, fight with the very sub frequencies with the main kick. And they both sounds like that. It's pretty good, but still we could get a bit more click so the kick can punch through from the mix. And that's why I like to use one of my kicks, but only use the transient of it. So it was like that. As I said, we only using the very click. So now we get a really perfect kick drum for this track. And not to occupy that much CPU, I render the kick and get this bass drum. Then I just route it to some channel and I give a bit of saturation, a bit of EQ, and just clipping and boosting it until it distorts. Like you can say it's like a coughing kick, there are tons of distortion, tons of saturation, which makes the Bigroom techno kicks different from the Bigroom kicks. In this kind of tracks, I like to use very fat, very distorted kick drum, and it should be very clicky as well. So the bass is this sample. It's made by Chris. I just boost the very fundamental note and also another boost. This EQ probably just the monitor, the sidechain, that's all, nothing else. And that's pretty much it. We have the kick, we have the bass. So if you're checking my other walkthrough videos, I most of the time putting this kind of crackling samples to the very back of the mix. It gives a texture and also giving some movement even though you don't hear it. So this was the kick and bass. Maybe we can proceed to the drums. I have several drums layers. So there is nothing crazy on the drums. In my previous tracks, I mostly used the pre-made loops, but recently I start to make my own drum loops, which help me to, glue everything together, which gives me more freedom if I just manually made the loops. Don't forget, we have the main swing on like 15%, which makes the hi-hats and other drum elements just a little bit off the grid. And it's adding a really nice, effect to the overall groove, overall vibe of the track. And I like to show you a little detail in here. We have like 2 kicks and 1 bass, but which is reversed. So I'm getting this weird effects. It's so small, so subtle, but adding too much to the track. And yeah, like little details makes the tracks much more interesting. So that's pretty much it for the drums. Maybe we can go check the main lead. So the first drop contains 2 different leads. The second drop contains another lead. I'm gonna get to that. But the first lead was this. As you see, we have tons of reverb, but you'll surprise when you see the unprocessed version of the first drop lead plugs. So without processing, they sound like that. So this is actually just a loop from probably Splice. But in this example, I don't like to just use the loop itself. So maybe I can show you one by one what I've done to the sound. Because I like to create something new, something unique out of the splice loop. I didn't like to use it as it is. So the first thing I did, just adding a distortion as I always do. And then some EQ. Just cutting the low frequencies because we already have a kick and bass. And then I put a thickify, which gives some saturation. And it makes the sound more fat. Then this VST, like it was from Steven Slate bundle. But in this PC, somehow it's bugged. I gotta reinstall that. But which was giving some top end, some clarity to the sound. And after that, we have the OTT. And then I was testing the stereo field with tweaking this plugin. It makes it really wide. And the patcher patch that I use for delay and reverb. See how we automate the reverb knob? It's just activating and boosting and volume up the only reverb signal when there's silence, and when there are leads playing, the reverb is ducking itself. So we are lowering the volume of the reverb when there's leads, and when there are no leads playing, we are just activating the reverb so it can fill the gaps, even though we have these reverse tails. So basically, I'm just filling the gaps with a reverse tail and also the reverb itself inside of the synth. So then we get a really full reverb sound. We don't have any gaps in the track. And let's continue checking the plugins. So we have the bass cut just giving the volume boost. And other than that, nothing special. Some filter, some sidechain. And yeah, that's all for the main first drop leads. So yeah, even though it's only a loop that I used just a one shot, just one hit, with processing, with some cool automations, you can convert it to a full drop lead and it's worked really well. And let's go checking other sounds that we have in the first drop. Probably we can take a look for the synth shot, the bass shots, the background sounds. This is the pre-drop fill. So I find it on Splice, didn't even change any parameters. Let's activate the other sounds. I'm gonna get to the other second drop lead later. So the first drop synths are like that. The Chris made and sent me that sound. So I only EQ'd and give some delay reverb, that's all. So yeah, let's go check the other drop lead that we have in the second part of the first drop. So it sounds like that. It's only a simple like a soft Pluck lead. But yeah, with proper reverb and again proper automations, it can be the main lead. So in this case, we have the reverse sounds that I always do. But other than that, let's dive into the mixer. So we have the DST as again for the distortion. And we have some EQ, boosting the mids and tops and always cleaning the low end. And Tikify, pretty much same as the other Pluck sound. But yeah, we have a bit more detailed EQ in here because this sound was really boomy or kind of resonating and making everything kind of a bit boxy in the low mid region. That's why we decided to deep that frequencies. We have some OTT. Vocal mode is the effector of the vocoder preset from FL Studio. You probably heard this FX tons of times, but it's still working in this kind of tracks. To give the interesting moment, give the automation, you can put effector to the chain and just activate it in some certain points. So it's just making it a bit more vocodex, so it's giving some interesting moments. And other than that, we have another reverb. It's separated from the main reverb and delay from main FX from the sound. It's just activating in the gaps. And with this, we are getting much more full sound. And other than that, it's just going another channel. So which I put a Gulfos just to tame like a 20% because this kind of sounds can have annoying resonating frequencies. And instead of dipping down one by one or putting some dynamic EQ bands, I just put a Gulfos and it's just doing the job. And other than that, we have sidechain, nothing else. And yeah, that's all for the both first drop leads. And now we can talk about the vocal sounds. Or before I go to the vocal, I have the horn sound in here. It's just the serum preset that I always use as a main step in this kind of tracks. Other than that, we only have the noises, right? Maybe we can talk about the ARP before we go to the vocals. This is a really cool sound that Chris sent me. It's the synth arpeggiato sound. It's like a dotted rhythm. Only thing I did just EQ, reverb, sidechain, and like fit it to the track. And that sound is coming in the second part of the drop and enhancing and extending the groove, the vibe, the ambience, the atmosphere for the track. And yeah, let's talk about the vocals now. So the vocals are like that. We pretty much don't do anything on the vocals. They are already pretty decent.
Self-destruct. Destruct. Destruct.
So in the vocals, we have an EQ, we have a little bit of compression and de-essing to get the annoying S sound in the top end. And other than that, I'm using the delay reverb patch that I always use in my tracks. And as you see, like the delay inside of the plugin has the 8 timing and it's really long. And with this, we can cover most of the space with vocal itself and it's just fitting the rhythm so well.
Self-destruct.
So it's just covering whole spectrum till the next phrase is coming. That's why we decided to use the 8 and it's because it's long because it can cover much more space in the timeline. And yeah, the reverse vocals as we always did. And that's pretty much all for the first drop. Maybe we can now go to the break section. And as you see, like in the end of the drop, introducing some choir sound that we use in the second drop as well. So it's always good to tease the sound that you always are gonna have in the latest parts of your track. Just introduce them a little bit and the next time the sound is came, the audience is going to be like, oh yeah, I know this feeling. And they will be get into the vibe of the track much more easier. So this is the choir I'm using. It's from Flex for processing. Again, Spotify is perfect plugin for making the sounds bigger. We have EQ and reverb, OTT, stereo imaging, nothing crazy. The regular stuff that you do. And if we go to the break section, let's start with the respace. We have the choir that Chris sent me. The break sounds mostly made by Chris. So as you see, we aim for the most ambient break section. We are only repeating the vocal once in the break. There's just some LFO, weird sounds, some choirs, some respace, some ARP coming in. It's just going for ambiances because we are just dropping this ambience in the second drop. That's why we needed to give a break for the audience to rest, to enjoy the vibe before the second drop comes. Because the second drop is harder than the first drop, which I'm gonna show you after we have covered the build up. And yeah, we have the kick still going on the break section when it's first starting. Let's connect the end of the first drop to the break and you will understand it more properly. So we have the bass shots, we have the drums, we have everything. And then I like to have a post drop part, which is a transition between the drop and the break section. And as you see, I have a filter in my kick bass bass, which is like cutting the high frequencies. So the transition is really smooth if you just follow this formula. So when the respace comes, the main kick is fading out. And that's all you need. And also I like to cover one more thing. If you see in the post-drop part, we have so much automations for the drum bass. So I'm automating Endless Smile as a washout FX, and also we have delay, but the time is 1. It's so small and it's creating this weird FX for the drum. If you automate it, it's creating this weird FX. So with Endless Smile, the tail of the drums is just passing through to the break and they are just fading out, which makes the transition really smooth. And I'm checking the project if I'm missing something, but yeah, that's pretty much it for the break. And let's dive into the build up. Just a basic snare layered with this. So we are having some epic sound with the snare build up. It's a really simple build up part, but as you see, there are some automations going on in the master. So I create this patch and just stack several VSTs top of each other. That was the idea before I made my Endless Cry patch. So it's just a volume automation, stereo automation, and washout for Endless Smile, which doing that job. The Endless Smile is giving a washout FX when we are going close to the pre-drop. The volume is fading down because I like to, the drop is the most loud part in the track, and the stereo knob is just narrowing the track. So when we are going to the drop, it's gonna be wide again, more stereo, and it's gonna impact even harder. And in the pre-drop, instantly introducing the new drop synth, the new drop lead, which was this, I think. So it's again a one shot, really weird sound, which Chris sent me, but again, I put some processing on it. It was like that before. Let me solo it. So it has its own reverb tail, but in the end, I like to use it as it is, as a one shot, because I like to put the reverb that I already use in the track, in the first drop, in other synths, which is going to put this synth and the other synths into the same room, into the same ambience, if it makes sense. Yeah, again, like the Tickify, like the reverb to fill the gaps. There's nothing crazy going on. OTT and Clipper, which is bugged, because this track was made in my laptop. It's an old project. Some plugins are not opening properly, but yeah. So we have this step sound and we have the weird one shots, which is the full drop list for the second drop. Let me play it with kick and bass.
Destruct.
So as you see, we are putting the rest of the sounds like a ladder to give the full power before we finish the track. And also in the second part of the second drop, we are again using the same drop leads, same simple sol lead that we use in the first drop as an outro, you know. It's like something familiar from the first drop. Which formula is like that? The first part of the first drop is different than the first part of the second drop. They have their own different characteristic of synths, but in the end, in the second part of both drops, we are just going back to the original theme of the track, which makes the arrangement much more make sense. And other than that, I think everything is same as the first drop. And yeah, this is it for the track. Probably I skipped these little fills. They are nothing crazy, just the same snares that I use in the build-up. So let me show it like that. Maybe we can activate several sounds again. And yeah guys, that's all for this track. I think I covered every sound, and still if you have questions you can ask me about them. And keep an eye on my socials. This week I will have another release, another Bigroom techno track, and I'm sure you are going to love it. So make sure to tune in my socials. Today that was it guys. I hope you can apply this to your own productions too. Thanks for watching. See you on the next video. Bye bye.